Lathan Watts is here. He's the Vice President of Public Affairs at the wonderful, the group that just keeps winning, Alliance Defending Freedom. Lathan, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Great to talk to you. There's a lot of things that really caused this special, but one in particular was Louisiana voting to mandate the 10 Commandments on every classroom in every school, from kindergarten all the way up to university. And obviously, people freak out, separation church and state. And they'll cite this 1980 Supreme Court case, 5-4 decision in Kentucky, that said you can't put the 10 Commandments up on the wall because it serves no secular purpose whatsoever, and indeed violates the First Amendment's establishment of a religion. Now, that was 20 or 44 years ago. So why is that still not the case? What happened that Louisiana and probably Oklahoma and other states think that they can get away with this now?
Well, there was a case recently at the Supreme Court, Kennedy versus Bremerton, which people may have heard about. That's the football coach who wanted to take a knee in silent prayer at the 50-yard line after games, and did so for 7 years without anybody having a problem. That case went to the Supreme Court, and in that opinion, they built upon previous cases where they had brought into question the Lemon test, which is what you were referring to before. The Lemon test from a case called Lemon versus Kurtzman established this very minute kind of three-part test to determine if the Establishment Clause had been violated. Judges and law professors love three-part tests. And to show how kind of convoluted that test had become, one of those three parts of the test is if the subject matter in question creates excessive government entanglement with religion. Now, if you can explain to me what government entanglement with religion is, I'm all ears. And once you figure that out, tell me how you identify excessive government entanglement with religion. It became this test that was just in the eye of the beholder when a judge was looking at subject matter in a case. So the court basically got rid of the Lemon test and returned to a more original understanding of the Establishment Clause, and has laid out in a couple of different cases that if the subject matter in question is a part of the history and tradition of the United States, it has a presumption of constitutionality. So specifically when it comes to the 10 Commandments, I mean, that is one of the oldest written moral codes in human history. So you can take the religious aspect of the 10 Commandments away from it. It is the moral foundation of law for cultures and civilizations for thousands of years. And simply having that in a classroom does not establish the official church of the United States of America, which is what the Establishment Clause was written to do. There was not going to be an official state-sponsored church here. You're free to go to church wherever you want. You're free to freely exercise your religion. That's the next clause in the First Amendment. And so you can teach those commandments or just simply have them in a classroom as a moral foundation for society without proselytizing in the classroom. You're not trying to convert anyone to Judaism or Christianity or any other religion. And so it, under the newest decisions, is perfectly permissible.
Okay. What if the Buddhists get together now, or the Muslims get together and say, all right, we're up here in Michigan. We want some Quran put up on the walls now. And that's no problem there. What do you guys say to that?
Well, going back to the Supreme Court, when it talks about the history and tradition of the United States, the Judeo-Christian ethics are a foundation of Western civilization, to the extent that Islam or Buddhism can't really claim that same historical context and foundation to the American Constitution and fundamental principles by which we're governed. Now, you could very easily in a public school have a class on comparative religion discussing the basic tenets of the major world religions and absolutely teach about Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, Judaism, all of those things. But when it comes to the founding principles of our country, Judeo-Christian principles have a unique position in this country. If you read the Federalist Papers, when the founders are writing to the American people to explain this new Constitution and why they should adopt it, the Bible is the most cited text in the Federalist Papers, and it's not even close. And so there's no other religion that can sort of claim that influence on American history and on Western civilization. And so, again, you're not teaching it in a way of converting people to a religion. You're not proselytizing, but you cannot teach the history of this country or Western civilization without discussing the influence of the Judeo-Christian religions.
So, of course, I obviously agree with you here, but I just want devil's advocate. So what if the Muslims come in and say, we want the Quran up there, and you say everything you just said? And they'll say, well, so what? Because Islam wasn't a part of our founding, therefore we can never now wedge our way into American government, public life in that official capacity anymore? We're boxed out now forever because the founders didn't quote the Quran?
Well, people are free in this country to worship and exercise their religion. That's the free exercise clause right after the Establishment Clause. The question about 10 Commandments in a classroom or a monument that includes a religious symbol is whether or not you're establishing a religion. And simply having a 10 Commandments monument, like at state capitals, many state capitals have them, again, because it is a monument to remind lawmakers of the moral foundation of law. And it's one of the, as I said before, one of the oldest written codes in human history. So there are differences when it comes to influence on our history and our constitutional principles, but that doesn't mean that people can't live according to their deepest held beliefs. I mean, Jefferson referred to religious liberty as the right of conscience. And so, which is why it's important, even for people who don't have a religious background or a faith tradition, to support freedom of religion, because for them, they still likely have a set of ideas they want to live their life by. And freedom of conscience, if you treat free exercise of religion that way, protects them as well.
About 1 minute here. Why does all this matter? Why do you work for Alliance Defending Freedom? Why do you guys focus on these First Amendment freedom of religion cases? Why does it matter that we were founded as a Christian nation? What effect should that have on us today?
Well, if you go back and you read not just the founding documents, the Declaration, the Constitution, the Federalist Papers, but you read even the correspondence back and forth between the men who founded this country, you will find that they had a deep understanding of the relationship between freedom and morality, that those two things are inextricably linked, that people have to be good enough to be free, that human history shows you that if people are just free but not good, and everyone is just doing what's right in the sight of his own eyes, the strong will oppress the weak. And so the reason we do this, religious liberty cases, free speech cases, we say a lot of times our mission is to advance the God-given right to live and speak the truth. It's because we're trying to preserve and protect the proper role of religion in a free civil society. And at its essence, that is to restrain the fallen nature of man. You can't write enough laws to make people good. That's the role of religion in a free society. And again, we're not going to have an official state church. That's the Establishment Clause. But you are going to be free to exercise your religion. And when people put their faith into practice, they make life better for everyone. And so that's why we do what we do. That's why these cases are important. Again, is to preserve that proper role of faith and morality. That's where the common notion of morality in a culture comes from. So that's why it's important. That's why we continue to do it. That's why we appreciate so much folks having us on, talk about these things, and people supporting our work, because we can't do it without you.
That's a beautiful answer. Lathan Watts, Alliance Defending Freedom. Lathan, great to talk to you. Thank you. Keep up the great work.